Hey guys, my name is Mike, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how I found a $700 room for rent near Washington, D.C. So I currently live in a 4-bed, 4-bath house. I have 5 roommates, so there's 6 of us in total living here, and I currently pay $700 a month just to rent out this awesome room. Now, if you're looking for some kind of secret sauce when it comes to finding a cheap apartment near Washington, D.C., it's really nothing too crazy. My formula for finding this place, pretty basic, just having multiple roommates. Like I said, 5 roommates, pay $700 a month in rent, and also using one of the different types of online platforms for searching for apartments. There's apartments.com, Trulia, there's, you have Facebook, there's Craigslist, a bunch of different options. I will tell you exactly what I did a little bit later, but first I just want to tell you how I even found this place. I feel like $700 near Washington, D.C. is really, it's like a dream come true. When I was initially looking at apartments, I feel like just 1 bedroom. If you wanted like a 1 bed, 1 bath, you're looking at minimum $1,500. So very expensive living here. Now I should clarify, I don't live in DC. I live about an hour away in the DMV area, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So not too far from DC, but still close enough where I could commute on the weekends if I wanted to do something. But yeah, finding this place really wasn't rocket science. Before I get into that, I just want to share with you kind of my backstory and how I even ended up in this area. So a few months ago, I was working, my standard accounting job, 9 to 5. My salary at the time was $52,000 a year, which I think is the exact median for the United States. So I was making about what everyone else in the United States was making. And after about a year of working that accounting job, I really wanted something else, wanted to make more money. So I was researching, found a cool job online in the DC area. Well, at the time it paid $78,000. So it went from 52 to 78. So what is that, like a 48% increase, something like that. And I had to jump on it. So I applied, got a job, and next thing you know, I need to figure out where I'm going to be living, because I told the new job in DC that I was going to be moving within the next month. Backtracking, I used to live in Western New York. If anyone's ever heard of Rochester, New York, we get a decent amount of snow, not as much as Buffalo, but we still get enough. But I was paying about $700 a month to live in a 1-bed studio efficiency apartment. All that means is basically living in like a coffin. So it's kind of like, let's see here, if you could only live from like here over, not going past my arm. So I basically was living in like in a box. Yes, I was paying $729 a month, and that did not include internet. So after you factor in the cost of internet, I was paying about $800 a month. And it was nice that I had at least my own space and I didn't have to worry about utilities. I was tired of making $52,000 a year, so I applied for this job, got it, and the next thing you know, here I am in DC. So how did I get to DC? Basically, like I kind of mentioned in the beginning of the video, there's different apartment websites. There's apartments.com, there's Trulia, there's Zillow, there's Facebook, there's Craigslist, a bunch of different options. I kind of went through every single website to pick and choose, filter the results and find the best deals. But ultimately what I found out was there's no way I'm gonna be living near DC alone. I'm gonna need to have roommates to help offset the cost of living here, because it's a very expensive area to live in. So after going through all these websites, I didn't want to pay $1,600 a month just to have like my own spot, just like I did in Rochester, New York. So I'm looking, and I basically came to the conclusion that I'm gonna have to have multiple roommates. So like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I currently have 5 roommates, and that's how I was able to get my rent down so low. Basically, the more roommates you have, the cheaper your apartment's gonna be. I feel like that's pretty common sense, but nowadays I feel like people don't really want to live with anyone. In a perfect world, it'd be really cool to have my own spot and not have to share a space with strangers, but tough times call for tough measures. Is that the saying? So yeah, I have five roommates. I am the 6th roommate, or housemate, should say. But yeah, out of all the different websites, I ended up kind of flirting a bit with, I use Zillow a lot, Craigslist, and Facebook, specifically Facebook Marketplace. There's pros and cons with each website. I feel like with Zillow was only really giving me like the high-end apartments. I mean, there were some like lower, cheaper apartments. So Zillow kind of gave me like a basic overview of what I cannot afford. So yeah, Zillow was kind of nice just to basically get a baseline of what I should expect to pay around the DC area for cost of living, specifically with rent. And yeah, so Zillow, I kind of went on Craigslist a bit. I feel like there's a lot of scams on Craigslist. I didn't really have too much interaction on Craigslist, mostly because I was kind of sketched out, to be honest. I don't know. I'm sure Craigslist is fine, but I feel like I've heard horror stories about Craigslist, so I kind of glanced a bit, but I didn't really entertain too many things on that website. And that brings me to Facebook. Facebook, there's 2 options that you can do to find a cheap apartment. A lot of people say you can join like a Facebook group. So for instance, there's a bunch of groups. So if you want to live in DC, you can just type in Washington, DC apartment rentals. And there's a bunch of different groups where you can join and say, hey, my name is Mike. This is my budget. I'm looking for an apartment between these dates, and I'm willing to pay no more than, let's say, like $1,000 a month. $1,000 still I feel like is inexpensive in compared to some of the apartment listings I saw. And then usually when you make that post on the Facebook group, there's gonna be like 12 people that message you, and they're like, oh, message me. And what I've learned is they're basically all scams. I would say, if I could give like a statistic, I would say if you applied to 10 apartments on using Facebook, I would say about 8 of them are gonna be scams. So 80% of them are not real postings, and the remaining 20% you might get lucky. They might be like legitimate postings. So I kind of use that a little bit, but my main way of finding the current apartment that I have now was actually Facebook Marketplace. So not only did I join like a Facebook group, but if you've ever been on Facebook before, there's like a tab for Facebook Marketplace. So you just click on the tab, you type in your zip code and then the radius, and you can basically do apartment searches on Facebook Marketplace. So I would equate Facebook Marketplace fairly similar to Craigslist. I feel like Craigslist might be a little more sketchy, but there's definitely a lot of scams on Facebook Marketplace. I'll share with you a quick story in a second about one of the scams that I saw. But yeah, that's how I found my current apartment. Sorry, I called this an apartment. It's really a house, and I'm renting a room. But yeah, $700 room. I feel like it's a steal, and I have a lot of housemates, and yeah, I pay $700 a month, and I have access to the whole house, which is really nice. And then yeah, before I give you more details about the actual house itself, let me just jump into the computer, and I can show you some of the common scams that I saw on Facebook Marketplace. So something just to be wary of when you're searching for apartments. All right, so I just pulled up my laptop, and now I'm gonna show you one of the common scams that I found on Facebook Facebook Marketplace. So basically, when you're searching for an apartment, usually someone might reach out to you after you initially say that you're interested. Someone will reach out and say, they might give you some details and whatnot and ask you when you're interested in moving into the apartment. But here is one of the scams that happened to me. Luckily, I didn't fall for it because it was pretty obvious. But the basic nature of this overall scam is they're going to tell you whatever story they want to tell you. And then when it comes time to actually seeing the apartment, you type, when can I see the apartment? There's going to be some giant elaborate excuse as to why they can't show you the apartment. So that should be like the first or second like major red flag. If anyone claims they can't show you an apartment, then it's definitely a scam. So I had a few scams. They were like, yeah, you're welcome to see the apartment, but you can only look at the outside right now because to get inside you need the keys, and I left the keys in Paris. So unfortunately I forgot on a recent trip to Europe, so I can't show it to anyone, but after I get back from Paris, I'll be able to show you the apartment. It's like the longer the excuse, the more like red flags should be going up. So my favorite excuse was this guy. So this guy, he actually changed his name. His original name was, I don't know what his first name was, but his last name was Rivera, and he claimed he claimed that people had to address him as Sergeant Lavera. Now, I'm not talking about like a specific military group. This is the wild, wild west of Facebook Marketplace. And this guy wanted me to address him as Sergeant Lavera. Or no, Sergeant Rivera. So I was like, okay, Sergeant, tell me more. So yeah, you can see since this whole interaction, he's actually blocked me on Messenger because he knows that I know he's a scam artist. But I'm just gonna read to you. I'm gonna read to you his exact post that he sent me. So basically, I was like, "When can I come see the place?" And he had this giant excuse. Remember, this is Sergeant Rivera. Giant excuse as to why he couldn't show me the apartment. So this is it. I'll read it for you guys right now. So Sergeant Rivera, I am barely around in my space due to my job. I only use the apartment anytime I'm on leave, and I have the space vacant. You know the nature of things in the military. Most times in barracks and duties, and currently I'm away on special duties. But I did take a clear virtual video of the property just before leaving for duties. I don't know if that works for you. So this guy is on special duties. He's throwing around this military jargon. We have barracks. He used special duties multiple times. Yeah, this guy originally was Sergeant Rivera, and he's since changed his name to Ralitera Narina. So he changed his name already on Facebook, probably because more people were reporting him. Definitely not someone in the military. I can definitely tell you that. Yeah, anytime someone is like, yeah, you can see like a virtual walkthrough. No. When you're dealing with Facebook Marketplace, you need to be able to go and visit in person to verify that this is a legitimate posting. Another quick example, I saw another scam where on Facebook Marketplace, they gave me the address. And so when I typed in the address, it was to an alleyway. So it was like 122 S Street and then basically there's two buildings, and on the actual GPS on Google Maps was the alleyway. So I was like, oh, it looks like I'm renting the dumpsters in the alleyway. That was a clear sign. Yeah, lots of different scams. I would say, in my experience, if you apply to 10 postings on Facebook Marketplace, 8 of them are probably going to be scams, and then 2 of them might be legitimate. So lucky for me, I actually found a legitimate offering. Mine was $700 for a room. So I'm renting the room, and it's inclusive of all utilities and internet as well. So if you remember from my previous story, I used to live in Rochester. I was paying $729 a month, and then after internet, it was about $800. And I had a very small space. Now I actually have access to this whole house, which is nice. So not only do I have this giant room to myself, but I can use the kitchen. I have a shared bathroom. I share the bathroom with my housemate, who is a flight attendant. I really only see her like 3 or 4 times a month. I pretty much have the entire bathroom to myself. Yeah, it's a pretty nice gig, pretty sweet gig, $700, all inclusive. I don't pay any utilities. I don't pay for internet. And if you're curious on how much my roommate or my housemates are paying, because I feel like I'm very nosy and I like to know what everyone is paying. Basically, the couple that lives in the basement, so I don't actually have any interaction with them because they have the entire place to themselves. They pay $1,200 a month. So remember, we live about an hour outside of DC, so they're paying for the entire basement. So it's a really good deal. Well, I don't know. It's a decent deal for a couple. If you and your partner want a place to live, $1,200, I feel like that's a decent deal. The airline attendant who lives the door basically right across from me, she pays $600 a month. So she actually pays $100 less than me. And the only reason for that is she doesn't have like a walk-in closet. I have this giant walk-in closet, so it's very nice. Although I could definitely live in a $600 room. That's saves so much money. And then yeah, I pay $700. So couple downstairs pays $1,200. The flight attendant pays $600. And then I pay $700. So the landlords of this house are bringing in, what is that, $2,500 a month for rent. So pretty good deal. So I wonder, maybe their mortgage is like $3,500. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, they're bringing in $2,500 a month for all the different tenants that live here. And half the tenants they don't even see. So it's really a good deal because they really only have to deal with me because I'm here all the time. The flight attendant is gone all the time. And then the couple that lives in the basement, they have their own private entrance. So I only really see them when they're going to and from work because for the most part, I never really see them unless it's outside. All right, so the last thing I just want to end with is if you do find a really good deal on Facebook Marketplace, like I said, it's kind of like trying to find a unicorn. You're most likely not going to find something, but every once in a while you get lucky like I did, and you might find, a $700 room for rent near DC. So if you do find something, make sure you jump on it as quickly as possible. With my story, basically when I found this room for rent, the owner originally said she only rents to people that she meets in person. So at the time I was living in Rochester, New York. So I was like, I'm SOL because I'm not in the same state as her. What I ended up doing was I realized how competitive the market is in the DC area. So I actually booked a flight that weekend, and I originally was inquiring about the $600 room, which the airline attendant currently has. And so I flew all the way here, basically wasted a whole day of travel just to meet this lady so she could get my trust and then she'd rent to me. But when I got to this house, I walk in and she's like, oh yeah, so the $600 room has already been booked. And I literally just looked and I was like, I flew here from New York just for this room. And I was about to be like angry, but luckily she followed up and she said, the $600 room has been booked, but we have a bigger room that we're renting for $700 and that will be available in 2 weeks. So that was literally perfect for me because I was like, I'm moving in the next month, so that would be perfect. So basically right there and then I was like, yeah, I obviously want this room. So before leaving, we kind of swapped details, and the same evening she actually sent me over the lease. So I ended up paying the security deposit. Security deposit was $750. So I'll actually get that back at the end of the lease. And I also paid, I only paid $350 for the security deposit. And then fast forward to when I actually moved in, the first day that I moved in was when I paid the $700 for the first month's rent. So it was really a good deal. I'm kind of at the point where if the airline attendant ever moves out, I might try to find a way to sneak into that, because it would be nice to save an extra $100 a month. You know, that's per year. That's an extra $1,200 a year you could save. So overall, I'm very happy. $700 is a steal. I'm only an hour away from DC and pretty safe neighborhood. No complaints so far. If you guys are interested and want to see a tour of my room and then the rest of the house, let me know in the comment section and I will post it and hopefully get it recommended for the next video after this one. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.